think Alan's going to enable that for you.
I'm going to enable so that anyone who wants to share will be able to. Now that I've done that, you should have a button that says share screen.
I have a button that says got it or leave meeting. So I'm going to press got it. I'll
yeah.
see what happens. All right. Now I'm here.
Oh, I got
it.
Okay.
Okay.
I got it. All right. Can you see me or can you see the screen yet?
Yeah, I see block plus crypto, blockchain
okay.
plus, okay.
Yeah, that's good.
So you got it.
Okay. Right. Let's see. Whenever. Okay, I got it now. All right. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm here because this is a really fascinating and exciting topic that I'd like to open up to all the Nassau County Greens and anyone else interested. The topic's blockchain and crypto, and I actually got interested in this when I was actually auditing the roof of a client's house when I was working for a solar company, and I was measuring, seeing how the solar array was, how much production you can get, and every 5 minutes, this guy would come outside and say, "Hey, how's it going up there?" Just like, I'm busy. It's not over. I'm still working. And he's like, "Oh, okay. Well, I want you to max out the whole roof." I was like, "Sure, okay, whatever." And I'm checking how much the trees are obstructing the view. Seeing if there's any chimney obstructions, yada yada yada. I go inside. He's like, "So what do you think?" I said, "Well, you have a great view. You look like you could produce a lot of energy and offset all of your home usage." He's like, "Well, come with me." He takes me downstairs to his basement, and in his basement is just milk crates full of GPU processors. Just like, okay, I don't know what's going on here. He says, "These are GPU processors that I'm mining Bitcoin with." And this is the first time I ever heard of Bitcoin. So we go back upstairs out of this like little dungeon area, and like, okay, I got some time before my next house. What are you doing? He's like, "Well, I'm going to send my kids to college off of this, and I want to use renewable resources to mine it." And that just to me was like the first big door open to this whole field, and I started researching it then and there, and like some of the interesting things that I learned about was that Bitcoin isn't the first blockchain, and the longest known blockchain currently is an advertisement portion of the Sunday classified section of the New York Times. Since 1995, there's a blockchain that is posted every week. There is an addition to the chain, and this helps so that if there's any advertisements in there and people are claiming, you're not giving me the proper promotion that's advertised here, and it was in this week's classified, they could say, no, look, according to the blockchain on that advertisement section, it's from last week, so you're not accurate. So it's been a math thing. Alan, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'm hoping you're going to define some of these terms before you go in very far, because you're using a whole lot of nouns that I don't know what they refer to.
Okay. Thank you for stopping me. Okay. So a blockchain is just a bunch of data. It's so in the New York Times, it's just a list of numbers that they would repeat into different symbols so that it could continue the data code. It's a list of data. So when it comes to Bitcoin, that is a blockchain with a list of transactions. Bitcoin is like there's X's, there's A's, there's B's in it.
Oh, here's a hard drive. Does this constitute a blockchain, the information that's on it?
Well, it's data. I'll be upfront. I don't know all the answers to all of this stuff. I'm not a programmer. I think also the big part about blockchain is that it's transparent. So your hard drive, you may not want to have open to everybody, but a blockchain is used for transparency and security, so that it's I think factual and there's no variations. So I mean, a hard drive is a collection of records. I think also a blockchain is something that has a consensus mechanism. But actually, I'm not necessarily sure if that's more of, we're going down to proof of work and proof of stake, which is cryptocurrency. So a blockchain is a list of recorded data that's secure, transparent, so that it's visible that there aren't any variations on it. Then a cryptocurrency shows a list of transactions, and it's verified through a consensus mechanism, which is self-governing, and it's self-governed by thousands of users. So is everyone following so far?
No.
Oh.
No.
Oh. You know what I wanted to ask you? Sometimes I see something, it says, put your phone up to this little square that has some black and white design in it. What is that? Is that part of it, or that's something completely separate?
That's totally separate. That's a QR code within an app.
To get it
but
on
I'm
further
gonna start-
information. Okay.
But here, now, is everyone able to see the screen now?
No, I just
Oh,
see
wait.
you.
Oh, Wait, here we go.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's see. Here we go. We've got all the data is within a block, and then once the block gets full, and it has to be added to the network when they're full. That's the list of transactions, and then this is now cryptocurrency. This gets there's two different forms of crypto. There's a few different, but the main two are proof of work and proof of stake. And you've all heard of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the proof of work, and that one is like one of the first cryptocurrencies. And the way all the transactions are verified is through something called mining, and mining is so. Well, that's so mining is if you give it something, it gives you something. So when you're filling up all these blocks of data, the miner then takes that and he gets the code right, and then he sends you back your address where your token is. And he in turn gets a reward. So that's this to the miner. And then it takes 10 minutes for a miner to verify that code, and then the transaction's made, and then the token is distributed. They call wallets ledgers. So a token would go to a ledger, and then you would confirm that you have it. And then if you wanted to send it to someone else, that's kind of starting it all over again. Is everybody with me?
No,
No.
Useful.
Well,
I-
I'm sorry.
It's,
Really?
this is, in other words,
I'm
it's a
patient.
currency, right?
So
It's
can you buy
mon-
your groceries with it? That's the thing.
And-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. So like, yeah, like a
We need
a
a
dollar
stack
bill.
here, I think, yeah.
Yeah, whoever wants to facilitate would be great. So like a dollar bill is like if you were a computer and you were analyzing this, it's just ink and paper. It
Mhm.
says like it's got language on it. It says this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private.
Right.
But the only function really is like I could blow my nose with it. I can wipe stuff off. And that's where we're at today. So
Oh,
somebody,
you can buy stuff with it. You hand it to somebody, you'll get something back.
yes,
It's worth something. You don't blow your nose with it.
But it's
That's
not
the
worth it.
tissue.
It's not worth anything intrinsically, though. It's only worth something because we've all agreed to treat it like it's worth something. It's paper that the government prints, and they won't let you make your own. It's
And one
just
other-
used for transactions. It has no intrinsic worth. Once upon a time, it did. It was backed by gold. I'm not sure what's the bloody valuable about gold, other than the fact that it's somewhat rare. But I mean, it has its uses, but it's not all that useful. But it was just chosen as something to use as an exchange medium because it was rare. And now we use stuff as an exchange medium for no particular reason whatsoever, just because we can. I'm not sure
Right.
where the cryptocurrency stuff fits in.
so I'd like to get in on that. So please, so imagine it's the year, well, 1775, and there's no United States. So even though it says it's money, this doesn't really have any function. Or if there was currency from the Czechoslovakia, like that was worth something back then. It says it's worth $1, but again, all it is a tissue. Whereas crypto, no matter what, has function.
It does.
And yes,
It can do something.
it can do. It can have smart contracts. Sam Catman here, he has put music on blockchain, which is a function. Artwork can be on the you can sell your house. You can put a deed on crypto and sell it. You can have okay. One second. You can have screen to share. Okay, so you can have something that's apps, but they're decentralized apps. And you can attach, wait, it's too confusing. You can have a whole game in crypto. You can have, this is the coolest part about it, decentralized autonomous organizations within crypto. So say the Green Party, or I'll simplify it. Say there's a vending machine here. And there's somebody who comes in and stocks the items. There's someone who puts change in the machine. There's someone who comes and checks to see how much stuff is in the machine. And there's someone who comes back, collects the money, someone else who comes and restocks it. Decentralized autonomous organization is code that checks and does all of these things. And you can take that and scale it to a whole organization. So like corporations currently have like a board, and the board votes, and then the CEO does everything that the board was voted to do. And what a decentralized decentralized autonomous organization does is remove the CEO, and basically everybody that wants to be a part of this organization can vote. And then all of those votes go into the code, and that then gets put into play automatically. And that's the system. And if you ever wanted to improve it, you could vote to improve it, and the cycle continues. You can all vote to see what a price of a product is. You can it could vote on hiring, vote on salaries, vote on employing developers. So the other interesting thing about it is a DAO can be affiliated to an organization like the Green Party. And just hold on, because I wanted to go to something which is back to just the basics of crypto. I was saying proof of work and proof of stake. So proof of work was the first crypto, which was Bitcoin. And basically, whenever a transaction happened, someone would mine it and verify the code was correct. And then after 51% approved of that code from other miners, that transaction's approved. But it takes up a lot of energy. It's very slow, and it's just, so the cool thing was in 2009, everyone with the foresight about decentralizing the financial institution was on the bandwagon for Bitcoin. Now you have to have that same foresight and look at something called proof of stake, because now everything is done and it's more environmentally safe. It's secure. You actually can incorporate voting like that DAO into it. So everyone who has a token is a shareholder in the so I'm sorry, I gotta explain how proof of staking works. That is get to it. So here's an analogy that there's a race. And imagine in the race, a bunch of people are lining up at the starting line, and there are 6-foot people, there are 4-feet people. Some people have injuries, others drank a Red Bull, some are old, some are young. You have a little bit of everyone at the race. The race starts, everyone's running. Whoever wins the race gets the reward. And that's what I was saying before. The person who mines it gets that reward, who mines the code transaction, the blockchain. So everyone wants to mine that blockchain. There's no second or third place trophies, no participation trophies or awards either. And this is how proof of work works. Except instead of one race, there are continually races back to back. You don't have to be a genius. Whoever wins one race will likely win a bunch of others, simply because they may be in the best shape with the best conditioning. And that being like the person who has a whole bunch of GPUs in their home, or now that was 8 years ago. Now it's these huge corporations that have warehouses filled of just fossil fuel burning GPUs. They're the ones who are making the most rewards, and they're in part having all of the voting capabilities with proof of work. So now I'll get to you in a sec, Alan. And also there's some luck involved. The person who is in crutches at 75 years old in this race has a chance to win. Even it's a long ways away, he's got a chance. Maybe everyone gets ahead of him and then lightning strikes and everyone else has to go to the hospital, and that 75-year-old on crutches wins. But instead of runners, it's miners who use computers to do the work. So proof of stake example is we all have the runners, they line up to the race. This time though, they don't all run. Instead, we pick one runner to run, and if they reach the finish line, they get the reward. There's a catch though. To be at the starting line to get picked, they have to put up a stake. And a stake is money you put up so that if you do something bad, your stake can be taken away. And this way you don't do bad things. And so question, if we pick someone to run, but they never finish the race, what if we select them to validate a blockchain, but they just give up? Since they signed up to be a validator and didn't validate, they don't get the reward. And the node was set up incorrectly, and an internet connection issue, or because their computer turned off, and they get something called slashed. Now, that's here. So this is slashing. And this is how the validation works. Someone with a token says that they're a validation node, and if they make the correct validation, they get the reward. And that's called a reward pool. And theoretically, the Green Party could start their own reward pool. And if we did this transaction verification, we could continually get the reward and even get compounded interest. And because there's a 5%, well, different tokens have different percentage rewards. Let's see. Yeah, so this was proof of work. It basically shows you that the more of those corporations with the big warehouses that are more democratic and transparent, it's also environmentally safer. Another big issue is what I earlier said was that Bitcoin takes 10 minutes to approve of one transaction. Now, Visa and like MasterCard, I think does like 50,000 transactions a second. So Bitcoin is very, very slow, and it takes a lot of energy to do that. And today, in these day and age, you know, everybody has a credit card and they're all over buying cups of coffee and stuff. And so the foresight was we need something that can have a better efficiency. So that's where proof of stake also holds water, a lot of water. It's much more efficient. Alan, did you want to ask the question?
I am so lost. I don't even know what question to ask. What's a GPU?
Okay, a GPU is in your computer. It's a graphics processing unit.
Okay,
So
that's what I knew GPU to stand for, but it didn't make any sense in the context of the sentence, so I thought it meant something else.
Right. I'm sorry.
What is mining?
So mining is
mining the process of creating a string of data that is in some sense or fashion useful, or what differentiates useful from absolute gobbledygook that you just write a bunch of string of characters and say, hi, here's one? I don't understand.
Okay, that's a good question. It's to, so
I mean, if it was the source code for Adobe Photoshop, you can actually do things with it, where the string of random gobbledygook, it won't let you do those same things. So I can see why this is useful and the other is not. But I'm not understanding as of yet what these things are that get mined, what they consist of, and why
So
one wants one.
so so the mining is all from proof of work, which is it's a consensus model. And in a normal database system that holds information, for example, a medical report card, a single person or computer is given the responsibility to manage the whole database. It is only their job to update and add new patient information to the database, and nobody else has access to it. And technically they could delete your account or say that you owe them $10,000 at will. For blockchains, this is completely different, being what is called a distributed ledger, which is like it's a technology and it's self-governing, which means there isn't one person who can control it or make changes. And contributions come from all of the hundreds of thousands of users who participate in the network to make it function properly. And if one person said you owe them $10,000, they would be quickly outed as a fraud by the rest of the people in the network. And this is the first benefit of the consensus model. And so
So you're saying that if a bunch of us agree that a string of characters is worth something and we reach consensus about it, that's what makes it worth something?
yes, we're agreeing that that transaction came from one address and went to another address.
That's not what I mean.
Oh, well, the value is it's not abstract. It's basically just the data stating that they own this percentage amount of a token.
What's a token?
I'm sorry, yeah, wait, they own this. They own this blockchain, and
And from Tom's link, it sounds like a blockchain is a database. I don't know if they mean database as in Microsoft Access, or they mean database like a specific file that contains a bunch of data that was created in Microsoft Access, or if they mean database in the sense of the data itself that's inside of that file.
well, I'm not sure about the Microsoft. It depends on the coding that each whether it's a blockchain code or token was developed out of. So like some tokens I know have Haskell and Plutus, and I can't remember, some others have other things. And I'm not a programmer. You probably know a lot more about that than I do. I just Tom.
A database in its simplest or most basic definition is a bunch of data. A file cabinet with paper in it is a database. Microsoft Access is a program that runs a relational database, which is based on tables and queries. Blockchain is a database of a different kind. There is data that is accumulated based on transactions or other things. In the case of cryptocurrency, it's transactions. And it is accumulated until you reach a certain size, which is a block.
Okay, so it's the data itself. It's not an environment in which you manage data, and it's also not the structure that potentially contains data. It's actually literally the data itself.
Well, it is the structure of the data. It's
I mean, the data happens to be structured, but
so when you reach that limit for a block, that block is closed. That is distributed to a number of parties, which are called nodes. Those are all people. It's a distributed database. so that not any one party can change the data in that block. Everyone has a copy of it. They can compare them. If Joey changes the data in his block to say he now has 10,000 instead of 1,000, we'll all be able to see that he's the only one who shows that in his block. We'll all have copies of the block. And then mining comes in when we verify that the data is accurate. There's something along the lines of a password. It's not a password, but there's some hashed data that is encrypted, that is in each block. And miners have to decrypt that hashed data. Okay, and the first node or the first miner who decrypts that hashed string of data wins, proves that that block is from the stream of blocks. It gets added to the chain of blocks.
Where does it all come from?
Where does what come from?
These strings that are either encrypted or
data?
not encrypted. Yeah.
It would depend on what you're talking about. For example, if we're talking about, forget about cryptocurrency for a moment, because it can tend to confuse things even more than they already are. We talk about blockchain, we're really talking about a distributed ledger, which is based on trust between the parties. And the reason they can trust each other is because they can verify that they're not cheating. And one of the ways is the fact that they all have a copy of the same block. One of the ways is the mining, the dehashing of the encrypted string. But the data in the block is based on, for example, transactions. Okay, so Joey gives Alan one thing. Alan gives Jim Brown 4 things. Jim Brown gives Joey 1 thing and me 3 things. And so that's just a string of data that's all being dropped into this block of data. Okay, so that's what's making up the ledger. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay. I'm giving you a somewhat vague description because the way that data gets into the block will vary depending on the application. But
I have a screensaver that has code that throws up fractals on my screen to look pretty. And when you install the screensaver, you don't get all of those fractals. Your computer, when it's sitting idle, is running computations to make some of them, and they get shared with other people, and their computers are also making some. So it's distributed and it is shared. Is it that kind of thing? That people's different computers are creating these strings of data and sharing them with each other in order to all benefit from the collective work that everyone's computer is doing or something?
I would be careful before I say yes, that's the same thing. People are sharing data. It is a distributed ledger, but they're not each sharing their own work that went towards the block. The block of data is a bunch of transaction information of whatever kind, whatever the type of transaction it is. It could be voting, it could be banking, it could be energy production and distribution from rooftops in Brooklyn. It could be any number of things. So in that sense, there are multiple parties producing something that is potentially shared among others. But that's not to be confused with the distributed nature of the ledger. The ledger is keeping track of what each party does. Yes, everybody does. Most of the people in the group do something, and that is documented in the ledger. But that ledger is the same for everyone and belongs to everyone, whether or not they contributed to the transactional database or not, whether or not they gained or spent money or whatever. So there's a distinction when you talk about distribution. Is this a distributed ledger? Yes. Does that mean that everybody has contributed $1? No. 2 different kinds of distribution.
I'm so lost. I think you should go ahead with the presentation, and I'm just going to chew up all the time and still not get it. So
Okay, I tried. I will go back to listening.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for your question, Alan.
Can I
Oh,
say something?
someone else?
Yeah, I
Okay.
just want to say, yeah. In other words, I'm totally confused also. In other words,
What is it for?
yeah, well, Gail says, what's it for? In other words, cryptocurrency is sort of like money, right? And you can invest in it. And it sounds like from what's been said before, to get this money, you do stuff with computers. Now, I don't know, but like to get money now, you go to work or you get some money from the government if you're retired like me, because you've worked in the past, all this kind of thing. How does cryptocurrency relate to that? To be involved, do you have to actually mine stuff? I know people invest in cryptocurrency, and one of the criticisms I've heard is that it makes money laundering easy. Supposedly, the type of cryptocurrency that, I mean, Joey has talked about two types. One is better than the other because one is not environmentally negative like the other. But I just don't, it's, to me, I just don't see exactly what it is and how it compares with money. But it sounds like to have it, I've got to do a lot more work with computers, finding out codes that I would if I had to go to work.
So,
I know that's, so I'm
let me
probably
answer.
totally confused about the whole thing, I guess.
So-
It's really, I really don't have,
so,
can't get my
so
mind around.
the codes are really like the validation, so that there's no variations on to prove if somebody sent the transaction is up for validators. And if Jim Brown wanted to make a simple transaction, you wouldn't have to deal with anything like that. So the appeal of cryptocurrency is that if you had to go, say, and get a loan of X amount of dollars, you'd have to go to a bank, right? And they would charge you an interest rate because you're going through a middleman to get that debt. The benefit of cryptocurrency is that it already is accessible and available. And you can get that without going through a middleman. You can get it in a matter of minutes. Now there's thousands of, not thousands, I don't know how many cryptocurrencies there are, but there's a lot. And maybe some are less secure than some others. And I'm not here to, refer you to some or not. I'm just trying to help with like the insight as to the benefits of cryptocurrency. And there's a lot of fear mongering I hear, or not fear mongering, but just this hesitation to go into cryptocurrency. But I would also say that there's everything that we look at a cryptocurrency that applies even more so currently in the current economic system. And like, if you wanted to buy a home, if you wanted to leave America and buy a home somewhere else, you just had it. To do that, you'd have to send your money from, one bank to another bank, get a conversion, pay that conversion rate to the exchange, possibly have to then wait for the realtor in that country, fees. There's a lot of red tape involved currently. Cryptocurrency, because of smart contracts, can break through it all and make everything very efficient, simple. Less banking is what really, like, less banking and more democracy, because everyone can see the transaction. And depending on which cryptocurrency you're using, because of the different nuances of coding, you see the different data involved, and the strategies. So it's interesting because it doesn't allow some corporations that have a lot of corporate secrets. Then the other edge of the sword is that people still want privacy. And that kind of goes into something that I want to talk about, which is Web 3.0. And I really hope I could just go through this for a little quickly. So in 1991 through 2004, we had Web 1.0. And if you remember, it was basically just like a Wikipedia. You just scrolled different websites. You couldn't have like an account on a website. You couldn't listen to anything, watch anything. You couldn't pay for anything. You were basically users were consumers of just information. And then you had Web 2.0, which is 2004 to now. And you have these corporations that are, taking your data. You're paying for stuff, you're watching stuff, you're hitting likes, but they're taking your data. And it's like, I don't care as long as I'm getting my likes on Facebook that they're taking my data. But then you get targeted for advertising, and there's no privacy. Like you can both, you and someone else can go on Facebook to the same page, but you'll get just a dramatic change of content, news content especially, just because of the data that these corporations are taking from you. And it's designed that way currently, like they're centrally taking that data. So Web 3.0 is basically, let's see, bear with me 1 second, because there's a term. It's the next evolution of the internet, probably utilizing blockchain technology and the tools of decentralization. Whereas Web 2.0, you were the product as you were browsing social networks. But in Web 3.0, some believe that you will be the owner of your content and stuff that you post online. And this is kind of true. So if you want a post to stay up, it'll stay up. If you want to take it down, they say you can control that. But when really, because as we know, usually when something is on the internet, it's always on the internet. One example that's real, well, no. Like, so they're saying that every company that one day will be run with that decentralized autonomous organization on the web. And this could be beneficial because you get to choose which organization on the web you want to interact with. And you'll be able to see if this one has a CEO or special interest ties. They don't, like currently, like Facebook gets funded from governments, and they can censor you because they have the control over that data. And what 3.0 is trying to do is, or not trying to do, but the idea is to undo that type of central governance. It's supposed to be self-governance. So like digital identity won't be 100% connected to your real identity. You'd be able to anonymize yourselves online. Sorry, where am I? Like, so what the reality for it likely will be a slow moving process with Web 3.0. It will just basically be like you could start paying for items on Amazon with your ledger, which is your crypto wallet, which would offer you privacy and different efficiencies. Does anyone have any? I can't see the screen. Does anyone have any questions about Web 3.0? Oh, did anyone even see those slides?
I saw the slides, but they were so tiny, I couldn't get them any bigger.
Oh no, wait, let's see.
So,
Can you see them now?
No, I just see you.
Oh. I apologize. I never shared a screen before.
Do you
So the
use this
crypto-
now? Joe,
So I-
do you use this now, this currency?
I
Do you have
do.
any use for it? Like in what? Give us me an example.
So there's something called a like on your computer, you have an application like Facebook, which is a centralized app. I'm into decentralized apps, and one of them is called Maladex. And Maladex is a decentralized exchange, and I'm only using it because it's available, and you can experiment with what I was trying to express before, the DAO. So I invested in, I took money, like my salary, and I put money into a cryptocurrency. It has to be called Cardano. And then I staked it so that whenever the validations are taking place, the pool that I staked it in, which is the Maladex pool, is both receiving rewards, and it's set for a specific intention. And their intention is for this decentralized exchange. And every type of, or I'm sorry, the reason why I put Cardano into that staking pool is so that I would have voting rights there and get to experience how this form of democracy can work. And it's really fascinating. It's
So have you purchased anything or exchanged anything with that so far?
no, I haven't.
So it's just sitting there, whatever money you put in, it's sitting
Yeah.
there for a future.
Yeah, I'm not touching it. They say
Uh-huh.
diamond hands or
Right.
hodl.
Well, though, does it give you interest?
Yeah. So Maladex gives me 5% compounded interest. So every 5 days, they take a snapshot of how much tokens you have in that that pool, and they give you interest based off of what that snapshot was. Yeah. And there's a lot of, and this is all through proof of staking. There's a lot of other cryptocurrencies that have proof of staking. The only thing is that through research, it's important to know, because knowing for like a staking pool or of an organization, what the majority intention is can change the direction of that organization. So like the Green Party, say there was a lot of anti-Greens who just decided to control the Green Party's agenda. They would come, they would put in their tokens, and they would vote against all of our party's platforms. And because they have the majority, they would then change this organization. So somebody in this Green Party could say, wait, it's clearly not genuine anymore as the green values, and they could start getting more people to come and vote against that agenda. And that's totally democratic. But some cryptocurrencies have already 51% private holders. Like before it went public, theoretically, like Mark Zuckerberg could already hold 51% of a cryptocurrency, so that he can alter the direction of different organizations in the future.
No. That's a good reason not to go in. Tell me, can you
Why?
pay a dental
But
bill
why
with
is that
it?
a good reason? What?
Can you pay a dental bill with it?
Actually, yeah. My dentist and I, we both have Cardano.
Oh, I see. So it's but he has to have be in the network also.
You just have to have a digital wallet called a ledger.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was supposed to come on tonight. Dr. Z, if you watch the recording, I'm plugging you.
And get more customers that way.
Yeah.
Let's say you wanted to buy, let's say you wanted to go shopping and get, like the supermarket, could you use that?
In certain institutions, they're accepting crypto coins. They're not widely available right now. I know the CEO Dallas Mavericks, Mark Cuban, is accepting certain coins in his companies. Other companies are accepting coins. What's the one? Overstock.com accepts Bitcoin. But like other companies like New Balance sneakers has been utilizing Cardano's blockchain to manage inventory. They've also partnered with Ethiopia.
Well, like El Salvador wants to turn the whole country into a cryptocurrency and pay everybody that way. And, everybody
Notes called, but 50% of Kenyans, for their main source of currency, are using a digital cell minute. So like they can share and trade minutes for their cell phones. And so that's 50%. I'm sorry, 50% of Kenyans have the cell phone, but 80% of Kenyans are using that minute as currency trading. So it's already happening in countries, not necessarily America, because we're so geared towards this, or what we currently have, like the status quo. But other countries that haven't had, the infrastructure of banks, and it's kind of beneficial that they haven't had those infrastructures of banks, because now they get to have this really, I think, like foresight to have an efficient way of exchanging not just currency, but like the broader thing of currency, like smart contracts, art, music,
or services.
goods too, like a house. Like being able to, if I wanted to sell you my house, I could send you the code, which would all be attached to a smart contract. We wouldn't have to go through lawyers with deeds and or realtors. It would.
But you'd have to pay for everything at once. I don't know how many people can do that.
I mean, it would depend on how the sale was structured, and that would also be through the smart contract.
Oh.
It's
sort of blown
I
my
think I'm
mind.
just gonna, I think I'm gonna still write out my checks to American Express or Chase. What can I tell you? It's a big leap for me, that's for sure.
I know.
If I had a dozen friends and we all enjoyed playing Monopoly, amongst us, we could start using the Monopoly money as currency, because we're involved in these ongoing games. And within the context of the game, that money is worth something. And you acquire the money by doing things that the rule says. If you do those things, you get more of the money. But it wouldn't be worth anything to anyone who wasn't involved in playing this Monopoly game. I'm missing how playing this cryptocurrency is any different from playing a game called cryptocurrency, where it's valuable to the people who are playing the game because the rules say these things are valuable. But I'm not seeing how it extrapolates out unless there's some kind of exchange between it and the world of currency as we already know it. where at least it has the pretense of this is remuneration for work you did or for materials that you handed over to somebody else. Although that also, if you really back off far enough, starts to look like a giant game. But I've never really understood money, to be honest. But I'm kind of familiar with it, and I'm kind of unfamiliar with anything that suddenly becomes of value unless it either has value you can actually directly use or else that it is somehow pegged to the other system. And this doesn't seem to be pegged to it.
Okay. So I was asked if I personally used it for purchasing a service or good, and I haven't, but there's been people for over 15 years who've been buying pizza with it. I just haven't chosen to do it. So within the
Really? Wow.
within the, you know, the composition of accessibility, it is becoming more and more accessible because businesses want to have that openness to having customers who do value this to be open to it. So it is growing and growing. The cryptocurrency market cap right now is $4 trillion. Yesterday, over I think I don't remember I could look it on my phone, but billions of dollars in cryptocurrency were changed from one hand to another yesterday. It's not happening streamlined yet, but I don't know. I'm speculating. I think it likely is going to happen soon. I think because people are getting fed up. You may not hear it in this country, but in other countries, they're fed up with the system that they have for financing. They're fed up with the system of not being able to have their privacy secured, or their own finances secured. And this is a means that they see as productive, and it's becoming more and more available through different companies and through different countries. Zanzibar. I mean, I don't know how much value you put in the countries Ethiopia, Zanzibar, Burundi, but they've all signed mutual MOAs with Cardano for growing their economic system, because they feel that they should be focusing on a grassroots basis for their economic system, which is hurting, and it's not stopping. So
You mentioned this company, Cardano. Now, what have they got to do with it? Are they in it for profit?
So Cardano, unlike the American banking system, has already laid out that there's 45 billion tokens available. The United States say, oh, we want to print more money, we'll print more money. There's not actually a finite amount of US
Right.
dollars. So there's no security really in terms of inflation and deflation. So Cardano was already thoughtful enough to decide, well, there's 45 billion tokens that are going to be available. And people can democratize with staking pools and if you intend to start a company, if you do it with Cardano. Oh, the cool thing too is that with every validation note with Cardano, a percentage of the reward goes into a fund called Catalyst. And then anyone who wants to have a startup business can apply, and they can get seed money to grow their company through that fund. So it's not, Cardano isn't a company, it's all voting. It's basically peer review for how to grow the economic system. And which is something we don't have currently in our nation's economic system or other nations' economic systems. But the cool thing is that like those imaginary lines get removed and it's just all people. And
So
and-
therefore it's more democratic or accessible?
yeah, it's transparent because you see the voting history of that company. And if you decide you don't like that company, you can go and either do business with another company and you get voting rights in that company. You could even try and start your own company and everybody could see that company and the history and then put their tokens and voting power into that company and build it up. The more tokens, the more chance you have at rewards. And that's the good thing about Cardano is there wasn't like a preliminary sale of tokens to anybody, to like a specific person. They've just been all available to everybody. And so there's other, I'll name some, like Solana is another cryptocurrency which has proof of history, which is like proof of stake, but they already have a huge amount of tokens set up for a private entity who nobody knows about. So it's kind of the wild, wild west out there in my view. And it is a lot to take on with getting a grasp on it. And it's kind of, I think, healthier to just sit back and just see how it comes to be. But there are things that are accessible, like this Catalyst, which is a seed fund to promote businesses. If anybody like says, I just can't wait, I want to start a business, they could start a business. And there's bridges, like one other thing that there's bridges too, like if you were a company or an exchange, you could transfer your smart contract from Cardano to Solana or Solana to another one called Ethereum. It's not like you were stuck with one token of an NFT, which is the non-fungible token. I didn't get to talk about that, but they're interoperable. Jim, I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
A couple of questions. In other words, let's say you want to do a startup business and you would need these Cardanos, I guess, to do it. Who decides that you get it? I mean, would you go in for an interview? It's like almost, it sounds like there's a banker or a banking system involved. The other thing, question I have,
you give a presentation. Oh, okay.
Yeah. The other question I have is this: would you consider, like let's say that societies were operated through cryptocurrencies rather than money? Would this be basically something that would be capitalistic or socialistic? It sounds like it's a bunch of almost like companies that are doing this rather than governments that are at least let's say representing a physical area kind of thing. Where does this fit in with like on a continuum of socialism and capitalism, for example, if this were like the real system that everybody started using? Or would it be, since there's so many cryptocurrencies, very anarchic? just what is that?
I think that's what I really wanted to come and talk about tonight. The decentralization, autonomous operation aspect of what I was getting to with the cryptocurrencies and smart contracts is able to manage not just a business, but I'm reading a lot about how they hope that governments will come into utilizing these systems so that they can create standards and manage that way through voting. That's what I'm going to offer, and I'll leave it at that. Yeah, it's, you know, because ideally the token itself, the monetary value, like aside from whatever the functional value is, like you have a, okay, so there's like something called a stable coin, and then there could be like a cryptocurrency on top of that, built off of the stable coin. So, oh, here's something cool. I'm trying to see if it fits with your question though, but I'm just going to go with it. I took my Cardano and I also put it into something called AGI, which is Singularity. It's a artificial intelligence company that's building a caretaking robot, and they're giving off staking rewards, and they're already providing nursing homes with these units. But that's the capitalist side. But the AGI is a cryptocurrency built off of the stable coin of Cardano. There's other ones like Qtus, but if you went to just the core of Cardano and say like today, like the value of it is $2.04 for Cardano per US dollar. Say one day, like all of the systems of our society have decided that like no exchange of goods is needed, like no exchange of monetary value is needed. It's just a contract. If I agree to do this, something for you to do something for me, like I don't know, is that still, where in the spectrum does that fall? Socialism or capitalism?
I don't know. Well, seems like a very complex system. Since I'm facilitating, should we wind this up and go to other aspects of the agenda for tonight, or just?
Yes, I think so. I think we've exhausted. I think we have
Wait, one thing.
exhausted our
Wait,
imagination.
we have a guest, Sam Catman, and if you're here, Sam, I'd really like to hear your take on it, because he's doing something really, really fascinating with his music. Sam, could you go into like what we talked about, was it yesterday, about the rights of your music and CNFTs? I can't hear you. Are you there?
I don't think Sam Catman is connected at the audio level. I'm not sure why, but not seeing an icon representing a microphone with or without a slash through it.
Okay. Well, I could summarize what we talked about in just a minute.
See if he put something in chat.
Sam.
No, that wasn't from.
Oh, that was Tom. So Sam has this project where he's making music. His music, instead of like going through a studio, like a private studio, who he would have to pay for fees, yada yada yada. He's his own studio, and he is.
We lost you, Joey. Can't hear you.
Yeah, he must have
Sound.
lost his
Can you hear me
sound.
now? Is that
Now
better?
I can, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So it says my internet connection is unstable. So Sam has done a project where he's putting his music on something called Cardano non-fungible tokens, and he offers them for anyone who would like to buy them. You give him the Cardano he likes, and then you own that that medium, that piece of media. And what he then says is that if you wanted to sell the rights of that piece of medium, say to like a commercial, like a TV show.
From Vega, Jodla.
Hello, Dottie?
So if you wanted to sell the rights of that song to a commercial or a TV show, you have the total freedom to do so, and you would get 50% of those royalties, and Sam would get the other 50% of those royalties. So I thought that was pretty innovative. There's a lot of that happening. There's hundreds of thousands of those exchanges happening every single day. I have another friend who's doing a service with NFTs that offer promotions for a certain industry, that when you dine in, I shouldn't have said that. It gives it away. And you own a certain NFT, you get, say, like priority for a reservation, or who knows, what have you. But these are in effect right now, and they're happening. I personally just haven't had the freedom, being a dad of a 3-year-old, to go out ever to do any of this type of fun stuff. But I am experimenting. I'd like to buy one of Sam's CNFTs soon. We were talking about it last night, and I'm going to probably do it on Tuesday. He said it will be available. But yeah, if you want to wind it down, that's totally okay with me.
Okay, do we want to stop the recording for the remainder of the business meeting, or is there a reason we would want to record the whole thing?
I don't think we need to record the whole thing. Did anyone have any questions about the musical
Before we
NFTs?
stop?
Yeah, just question. No? Okay.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording then.